Welcome to Buzzing About Romance Happy Hour Edition. I am Becky, and joining me in the co-host slot this time is Heather. Hi, Heather.
Hey, Becky.
And we are super excited. We do have a little bit of a guest lineup change, but um, we are super excited for the opportunity to talk to author Renee Rose.
Hey,
Welcome.
everyone. Sorry.
That's okay. Alta Hensley did not have great Wi-Fi where she is staying, and so she is not able to join us live, which is cool. No problem. We will just make sure we have to have her back, have you all back for the second part of this book. And look at Heather. She's
fun.
like, yes, please.
Well,
We are super excited to celebrate with you the release of Den of Sins. I kept saying earlier today to my girl child, she's like, what book is it for tonight? And I'm like, Sindin. She's like, what?
Sindin. Yep.
I'm like, it's Sindin. She's like, no, it's not. No one names their book that. I'm like, okay, but those are the words. Anyway, Den of Sins is the name of the book, and it is book one in a duet. So this book does end on a cliffhanger, and it made Heather a little ragey.
Understandable.
You don't do this typically, so what? I mean,
totally. It's my first ever Cliffy. I mean, I am like a total people pleaser, so it was hard for me to like get to the stage of. So Alta actually suggested early on that this book be a cliffhanger, and I was like, I don't know, doesn't it make people mad? You know, but she just did a trilogy with cliffhanger. So she's like, I can do this. Like, I know how to do it. And it doesn't make people mad. It's okay. So she talked me into it. And it's not a trilogy though. It's a duet. So yeah, it'll be done with the next book.
Right.
So I think the way you did it though was really great. Like, yeah, it just worked. I feel like.
Good. I'm so glad.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome.
So it's an interracial dark mafia romance, and this is a brand new family, and it's set in Chicago, obviously. So you're back in Chicago. Was it hard to leave?
Yes. There's not that many, like, I know there's not that many big cities to put mafia, right? So, and I know Chicago, I went to college in Illinois, so I know Chicago better than East Coast cities. So
I always say Chicago has a mafia problem like nobody's business. Because we recently did a episode all about mafia, and that was one of our key recommending points was what city does this take place in? And when we sorted, like I think being a child of the 80s and early 90s, that mafia was always Vegas, New York City, Boston.
Yeah.
And then when you went south to Florida, you would go like Miami for cartel, and then, of course, like Arizona and Los Angeles. But, Chicago wasn't, Chicago was Al Capone, so that was gangsters.
True.
Which has a different vibe than mafia.
Yep.
And then we did that episode, and I think like 65% of our book recs in that episode were in Chicago. They got a crime problem.
They really do.
My perspective being, I'm in Minnesota, so I never even really put crime with like the type until The Sopranos. I was like, oh, I suppose I could have mafia in New York. Like Chicago was always like where I thought mafia.
Yeah. Well, and I went to college in this small town in Illinois, but the town was basically like grew in the 1920s because it was the railroad. Like if things got too hot, gangster wise, they would like take the train straight to Galesburg and like hang out there until things cooled down. So our town was like the hangout, the cool down place for the mafia.
So fun.
Well, Al Capone supposedly has had some hideouts in Minneapolis and St. Paul, and then even like I live north of the cities. So up north, up here, Al Capone had a farm.
Really? Didn't know that. Amazing.
Yeah. Or of course. That's
maybe we should see a mafia farmer. Has to get out of the city and go north.
There's a lot of lakes here, is what I'm saying. So
yeah, a lot of opportunities to sink I think people with cement shoes.
So funny.
Totally.
Okay, so just real quick, rules of the night. You can ask all the questions in the chat. If this is your first time joining us, welcome to Buzzing About Romance Happy Hours. Sometimes we do these a couple times a month. Sometimes right now we're doing them a couple times a week. So make sure you like and subscribe to the YouTube channel so you'll know whenever we have new events coming up. In the description of this video are the links, all the places to connect with both Renee and Alta, including newsletters. And we'll get to that later because apparently Renee gives good newsletter. That's what I hear.
If you're not subscribed, you're doing things wrong. So
this is what I hear.
Awesome.
So let's kick things off in our traditional Bees way. Renee, what are you drinking this evening? It is Thursday, Friday Eve.
It is Friday Eve, and I've got a vodka mule.
Nice. I like some vodka.
Mm-hmm.
Heather, what are you drinking this evening?
I'm just drinking like a cherry ginger ale. I'm packing for a book.
Heather is headed to the North Iowa Book Bash for this weekend. So if you guys are headed there, make sure you look up Heather and Buzzing About Romance. Do you still have stickers, Heather?
I do.
Are you taking them with you?
They're already in my box.
Perfect. She'll have Buzzing About Romance stickers. And I'm just drinking a Coke tonight. I hoping to get a drink. I was looking for some tequila and grapefruit, so we'll see.
I love that.
We'll see what we get. Okay, so let's get to know Renee a little bit, and then we'll get into Den of Sins and the amazing characters that are in that book. Renee, why romance?
Why romance? I freaking love romance. And the funny story is that I didn't read it growing up. Like I was an avid reader, but I was like a mystery. I don't know why I'm not writing mystery, but I was like a mystery reader. And then I went to college. I got my degree in creative writing, and they like really looked down on all genre romance. So genre fiction. So it was like, like basically the first class, they were like, I will not read science fiction, mystery, so don't turn it in, Yeah. So it was all like literary fiction. So then I thought I was too good for, genre fiction. And I didn't read it. I was only reading like highbrow. And then this is before Kindles, but I had to take a plane ride, and I was at a friend's house. And so I said, do you have a book I can borrow? And she handed me a Jennifer Crusie novel. Do you guys read Jennifer Crusie? Freaking love her.
Okay, so I have a little story about her.
Okay,
I actually took a creative writing workshop from her because she used to be a professor at the Ohio State University.
Oh, I love that.
It was
Is
the
she
90s.
Amazing?
Yes. Do you know she was actually a high school principal at a small Wapakoneta, Ohio school district, which is like tiny little school district.
That.
She was high school principal. Anyway, she's super smart and fun.
So yeah, you can tell because her books are smart and fun.
Bet me.
And I read that, and like the friend who gave it to me was like someone I consider like intellectual, because I was like, you read romance, because I still had that like romance isn't smart or something. And she was like, just try it. And then I read it and I was like, oh my God, what have I been missing my whole life?
Like if you want a really great curvy heroine romance that's like plus size, bet me.
Bet me's such a good book.
And
such a good book.
All of her books, I don't know if you ever realized this, they all take place like in Southern Ohio, in the Columbus area, and then also like between Cincinnati and Columbus. And so some of the towns that she describes that she's renamed, but I totally know those towns.
You're like, I know that place. Totally. I love that. Yeah, no, I love her. And so it's, for me, it's like the sex and then the happily ever after, like those are because I'm all about like bathing in good energy, right? And so if you're reading literary fiction that's like life sucks, but I learned something, you're kind of bathing in bummer.
You are.
You know what I mean? So maybe that sounds funny for someone who writes dark romance, but
no, it doesn't, because it's creative, and it takes you out of your current glumness, and transports you to this other place that even in the midst of chaos and war and drugs and whateverness, you can find these spicy hot moments. And you can find these connections to other humans. And I think a lot of us read romance for the connections. Like, we like the spice, but it's the girl gangs, it's the dudes, it's it all has.
And the readers know, like, there's consent on their part. Like, they always know they're gonna get, if they're reading, my book, they know it's gonna get good sex, like steamy sex, and a happily ever after. And so they're willing to go through like the bumps because they know it's gonna feel good along the way and at the end, you know?
You know, it's funny that you
Yeah.
say Jennifer Cruzy and that you pick romance and you had all these feels about because of your college. You know, one of her big things is she got into like a verbal sparring match with Nicholas Sparks. Oh my God, I said his name. I hate him. They hate each other.
Awesome.
Like warring because he talked down about romance and
They always talk down about
she went
romance.
after him like
Good for her.
fierce. And you know, so it's funny that you're like, oh, you know, I was worried because of, you know, the academic part of it.
Right.
No,
I have a friend, you know, I don't want to name names, but a romance author friend who got like kind of reamed by other sci-fi authors at a, you know, at a broader like novelist conference. You know, like they were talking down like she didn't know anything, and she was like, I make twice what you make. Like, you know, people, but no one takes romance seriously. It's because there's sex in it, and you know, we have to just marginalize sex, right?
right.
But we have interviewed, Becky and I, in the last few months, have interviewed a lot of romance authors, and y'all are very smart. Like, you are very intelligent women who are business savvy. And
Exactly.
like, I think that in general, people sell you guys too short. And I
Right.
think you just need to keep holding your head up high and be like, well, I'm making lots of money, and a lot of women keep reading my books, and a lot of men are reading your guys' books because they want to know what women really want.
Right. Right.
So
Right. I think that people they forget that, or they don't realize that we're also very savvy business women. You know, like
yep,
and you have to be in this industry, you know,
you do.
like unless you're trad where you just sit, you know, which I don't even think that's true, that you still get to sit back and let someone else do it. Because I think even if you're trad,
There is a little bit of sitting back, but you know, as we saw with the strike that happened with HarperCollins earlier or late last year, those authors have to do all their own marketing, just as you
Right.
do, but they don't have the money
Right.
behind them
No.
or the name or the recognition to do some of the ad buying that you
Wait, they
get
also
to
don't
do.
get as big a return, right? Because
Right.
like I don't have a middleman, so when I spend on ads, I get the return myself.
Yeah.
So
There's
yeah.
good and bad to both of it. I will
Yeah.
tell you that buzzing about romance. So if this is your first exposure to us, we are heavy on the indie. I went through my numbers for last year. We read less than 5% trad pub romance. Most of what we read, and almost probably what, Heather, 90%, 99% of our quick shots, which are our short form 20-minute episodes where we do book reviews, those are all about mostly our indie. Like,
Yep.
maybe one or two a year gets a trad. So as a reader, I've been reading romance since 1990. I read my first romance book in 1990 because I'm old. And romance is not the same that it was then in trad pub.
Yes. Sure.
So the stories that I'm looking for more align into the indie market because I am looking for higher steam, bigger connections, more voices. I don't want anyone's voice muted. Like,
right. There's more risks in indie, right?
Yeah.
Like you can take risks because you don't have someone to go, we can't do that because someone might not like it.
Yeah.
Which is, I mean, that happens. Sometimes people don't like it, but you just have to know that not everyone's going to like it.
Yeah.
Right?
Not every book is for every person.
Right.
Yep. And we don't yuck anyone's yum unless it's
Nope.
Nicholas Sparks, then I'm yucking you forever. Always.
With you.
Yeah.
Totally with you.
I have big feels.
We so Becky and I went into a deep dive of Mafia. I think we read Mafia for 3 months straight.
Nonstop from
Which is
December to
amazing.
February.
Mhm.
Love it.
So there, one of the things that we noticed is that there's a ton of Mafia on Kindle Unlimited, and this new series with Alta is in Kindle Unlimited. So everyone wants to know, is this just a duet, or are you going to carry this series further?
So, you noticed probably that there's a couple cousins.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So we definitely plan on, so we're thinking like duets for each of them. So it'll be like 6 books total.
So Marco and Leo, right?
Yep.
Okay.
And then they each get 2 books.
Okay.
That's our idea at this moment. Yeah.
So I have to say, and Alta's not here to answer this for us, but I had a Instagram live with author Zoe Blake, and she teased that she has a project coming up with Alta. And so I didn't know if maybe all these worlds are going to kind of intersect.
Hmm. Alta and I haven't talked about that. That's interesting. That would be really cool.
Because I was like,
Uh,
wait, are all these authors like jumping bed partners and like all of this? And like, we're all going to
so
get this.
cool.
Because honestly, like between you and Alta and then Zoe Blake, because I'm obsessed with Zoe Blake's daddies.
Nice.
Anyway, Heather and I just recorded an episode all about daddies and daddy
Awesome.
book recs.
Which I
Awesome.
hadn't read this book yet, but
Yeah, I could
wow.
I could put a caveat in the notes if you need me to, Heather.
So I'm so excited because I am the keynote speaker at Dirty Daddies Do Vegas
Oh,
2024.
Nice.
I know.
I've not heard of the signing or whatever.
So
What's
it's
it?
fall of 2024. So it's a ways off, but
Okay. I would like to go, Heather, and I don't even like Vegas, but I would like to go.
Sweet.
I'm in my daddy era. Can I stretch my daddy era all the way till fall of
Yes.
2024?
yes, you can.
All right, I'm looking it up.
Nice.
Okay, so do you have a favorite trope to read or write?
Abduction seduction is always my favorite. When I was writing up for Vegas Underground, I was writing like, the 1 or 2 sentence like summary for each book, and I was like, and then he abducted her, and he abducted her, he abducted her, and I'm like, okay, I guess all my books are same,
We
pretty
have a
much.
sticker. I will happily send you one, Renee. It was part of with our Patreon, we do a swag pack every month. And my husband has done this whole theme of 80s looking stickers
Awesome.
that are all just a little different. Like one says, be kind, use a plug. But another one says, kidnapping is my love language.
Oh, I need that. I
Tie
totally
me up.
need that.
Tie me up and tell me I'm pretty. Like they're like
Mhm.
80s themed.
I
with-
need those. Oh my
I will
God.
happly send you some. They were
Thank
part
you.
of
That
our
is so fun.
they're part of our Patreon, and
Love it. I love
like
it so
he
much.
did the book boyfriend hoarder
Oh my
with
God, I
the
love it.
for our Patreon swag packs. And
I love it.
but yeah, he did this whole, and he's like, "Do you know how weird it is that I'm sitting here looking up like tied up hands?" And I'm like, and he's like, handcuffs, and I'm like, "You're welcome.
Yeah.
You're very welcome."
You do love abduction. Like you do a lot of kidnapping, which
I
is
love
our
it.
love language. So we're okay with
Yeah,
that.
it's definitely my love language. I like it better. I mean, I love BDSM, but I like the non-consent better than the consent. Like I think it just ups the heat level because, she's really like she's actually scared, like she doesn't have a safe word, right? So
Mhm.
there's and of course my heroes never actually hurt the heroine.
No.
Because it's their love language.
Right?
So it's like this. It's a little dubious consent. So like
Yes.
this one, it never like it didn't.
Didn't you feel
like
like
he
it was
forcing.
consent though in the flower shop
Yes.
that first time?
Yes.
I was screaming yes
Yeah.
for her. So
I was like, hot damn. That first time in the flower shop, well done.
They were steamy, right? This couple, like right from the start, they were like, now we're gonna get it on, and now we're gonna get it on again, and then
Mhm.
Alta took. So I wrote that, and then Alta took it, and she was like, more sex. I was like, you go, girl. She just like added to it. It was awesome.
Alta and I are going to be BFFs because I am with her on that.
Yeah.
They could not keep their hands to themselves.
she likes a spicy book. I just read her monster series, her Gods and Monsters that she's doing, the brothers that she currently has coming out right now. And there's a lot of spice in those.
Mhm.
And I'm like,
Yes.
sister friend, I like some spice.
We like the spice for sure.
Also, are we ever going to be able to look at Florist tape the same?
No.
No.
Never.
No. And I had to tell you, I have a little bit of a love-hate relationship with Florist.
Like,
Like, I get it.
How is she getting that off her, off of her?
Yeah. I'm
Because
like,
like it's a little stretchy, right? It's like, I thought it was pretty perfect.
It was really great.
It's a
And
bondage tape.
I just loved how he was like, yeah, we're not going anywhere. And like I love how I think you did a really great job. The both of you did a really great job with this heroine because she's not emotional, but she has a lot of emotions and she feels real big. And the way that you wrote that and the way he not manages it, but takes it, it's great.
Yeah. It's there. I mean, it's so fascinating because, you know, he was like flat emotional and then she's like extra. And so like somehow they make it, you know, they balance each other out, you know.
Yeah. And really how you introduce her to us is really, really great. Like how I'm like, how is she gonna play in this? Is very interesting to me.
Well, I loved her introduction. So, I mean, we're
Mhm.
already talking about characters, guys. We like are just
Sorry.
all over the place. So, when we meet Hannah, like she's the florist. She's taken over the floor shop, and we are not going to spoil this for anyone that hasn't read it because we really, Heather and I really want you guys to go over and grab this book and read this. So Heather can complain with somebody else that it ends on a cliffhanger. We meet Hannah, and you know, she's what did she refer to herself as, like the flower girl for all the mafia mistresses, and like she does a little extra in the flower arrangement for the wives
Because she feels bad for them.
because
she knows they're getting cheated on.
Yeah, so
And then she gives the mistresses like daisies, and I'm like, you go, girl. They're too stupid to pick up on it. You go, Hannah.
Well, and the men are so dumb. Like you don't realize that your wife's bouquet is like twice as big and big flowers and lilies, and your mistress gets Gerber daisies.
Like, multicolored, like that you pick up at the
grocery store. She's kind of vicious a little bit. Like
she does have an edge. Like she's a nice girl, but she's got an edge for sure.
Okay, I know there were questions here and I missed them. So I'm just going to ask you some of the questions there in the chat. Gretchen wants to know, Renee, is this your first collaboration with Alta?
Okay, so it's my first like actual co-write, but I was going to say, you know, talking about Alta being dirty, in 2017, she invited me to do an anthology with her, and she wanted to do like sci-fi, and she was like, her idea, like her pitch, I still remember because we were like eating at a restaurant. It must have been like during a show or something. And she's like, I think it should be like as dark as you can make it, like dark and non-consensual and really dirty. And so that challenge got me to write His Human Slave, which became my whole sci-fi series, which was really my breakout. Like I was a new indie author, and like that was the first book that like started making me money. And so I have Alta to thank for that, for like, because she pushed my boundary by saying like, no, you know, as dark and dirty as you can make it. And so that was like permission, like someone gave me permission to, you know, of course I have dark and dirty fantasies, but then I was muting them because thinking like, oh, people can't take it. But in fact, they can take it and they do.
Yeah.
Okay, this is your first co-write. You have other co-write book with Alta. It's your first co-write with Alta, but you co-write with several other authors, correct?
Yes, I co-write with Lisa Vino for Shifters, and with Vanessa Vale, also Shifters and some Mountain Men, and then with Alexis Alvarez for the sci-fi spin-off series.
Yeah. Well, we had Vanessa Vale on in December, and she was a delight, and she was talking about writing with you. And because I think you asked her, Heather, you're like, are we going to get more? And she was like, I don't know. I don't know.
The Mountain Men series is so like, everyone in our community just loves that series. So
yay.
Good. So, I mean, you're going to have fans if you choose to write it again. Like, I'm just telling you.
I know we did leave characters open for that for sure. So we could.
You did.
We go back. Yeah.
So what is your is your process different with each of your different co-writers?
It is. And this one with Alta, it probably won't happen this way again. Well, maybe. So, okay, so this one is similar to the way I write with Lee, which is like I wrote first and then Alta followed and like filled in. And that's the way I write with Lee as well. Not always me writing first, but one of us writes first and then the other follows. With Vanessa, we would like just go back and forth section by section, like just volley it. And then we would get on the phone and talk before each, you know, agree on what the scene was going to be before the next person wrote it. So it was like really, it really kept the ball moving because you had a partner to like talk through the, when you know what you're going to write, writing goes much faster, right? And when you're not just sitting there going like, or just like seeing what happens and then like, wow, I can't believe that happened, which, so that's an easy way to work. And then with Alexis, sometimes I work that way and sometimes she takes the lead and I follow.
Okay.
Yeah.
Um, does so with that process, like somebody you writing first and someone following behind you, do you feel the process is faster that way? And then do you go then back behind
I did.
Alta and be like, okay, wait, I really think we need to tweak this and then tweak this?
Yeah, it wasn't many tweaks, but I did go back through, just to like edit, and then, there were just to catch a few, some things where like
Yeah,
um it didn't quite fit. She'd inserted something into my scene, and then like, so she had panties on here, then she doesn't here. You know what I mean? Like the somewhere
sure.
things don't work. Like her hands were tied, and then like suddenly she's like clawing his shoulders. I'm like, no, her hands are tied,
No,
So
it's almost like instantaneous editing, though, too. It's as if your editor is coming behind you.
yes, yeah, yeah, and then that makes the edit process really fast because it's already been read by two of us. So
So Rhonda just asked, is there an author you haven't written with but would love to?
well, I think I can say that I'm about to start writing with Natasha Knight, so I'm super excited about that. We're
Okay.
gonna do some dark paranormal.
Nice.
Yes.
Leah and Lindsay, if you are watching this, just so you know, they're starting some paranormal pieces for the podcast. So
Fun.
I will make sure to pass that on to them. Okay, so I have to ask because Renee, your books have top tier spice. Like, so in the Buzzing About Romance world, we call it, I think Heather froze.
I
We call it pop. So
know.
it's
Okay.
the put out percentage. It's the percentage of the book, a percentage of pages we've had to read before there is on page spiciness. So
Okay.
that can be, intercourse, it can be dry humping, can be sexy. It's all sorts of little things like that that can happen. So we call it pop, and it's a percentage, and that's what we use to gauge the sexiness of a book, because spice level is subjective, right? Because what's spicy for me is not going to
True.
necessarily be spicy or over
Totally.
spicy for somebody else, because I have kind of a high spice
Mm-hmm.
expectation. So you write top tier spice, like your books pop, and when they do it a lot, and
They
it's good.
Awesome.
Like anytime you can give me spiciness in not the bed, I'm there for it.
Right? Yeah, I love it in Not the Bed. Totally. Yeah,
So
we usually save the bed for like when they're starting to soften toward each other,
right.
but otherwise it's like gotta have it everywhere else first, right?
Yeah. So how hard is it to write all that spice like that?
Those are the scenes that write themselves for me. Like that's like where the word count that day is like, 3,000 words, no problem. Whereas like it's usually like the mystery plot where you're like, now, okay, if that happens, then, it's like you have to think through it a lot, and, it's not as intuitive.
Yeah. I don't know if Heather's coming back or not. She thinks they lost their internet in the Twin Cities. So it might just be you and me for the rest of the
All right.
time. So I will say that Den of Sins kind of has a film noir feel to the writing and to the world building.
Cool. Yeah, I can see that. I see what you mean. Yeah.
And so then I looked at that cover, and that cover is gorgeous. And it just kind of gives more of those film noir type vibes. So obviously, as you're like, yeah, I see that. That was not a goal, huh?
No, but the characters, I mean, I think it was the thing about him having PTSD from being in prison is what lends to that noir,
Right.
because that was his emotional landscape was very, yeah, it was grainy, like a
Yeah.
grainy black and white, right? Like, and I think he maybe even says that, like, there was no color until Hannah, it's like,
Yeah, he talks about that, and the way he looks at the world is just very, it is that graininess. It's that kind of functionary move where he sees the wisps of life and feelings, but they're blurred. Like he can't seem to touch them, grab them, embrace them. Particularly like in that opening scene, he's having this conversation with his cousin, but it's very stunted. Like he doesn't
yeah,
have this full, scope of emotion yet. And then when he gets with Hannah, it's like lights start shining in.
and he's like
things
kind of forced to say, it's like they have communication barriers, and he like has to figure out how to communicate with, it's like he can't just be like behind that glass screen he's been behind almost.
Yeah. Yeah.
Behind the bars, I guess you would say.
I really loved it. And I loved your world building because, again, you talked about that we have the cousins and that they should be seeing some titles. But with the world building, it kind of had, again, that film noir type feel, like shadows in the corners, chasing the unknown.
Right. Alleyways. Totally.
Yeah.
Oh, I don't know if the alleyways have happened yet. Sorry.
No, I don't think we had alleyways.
They haven't. Sorry.
It's okay.
There's alleyways in book 2.
Hold on a second. I'm just letting her know whenever she's ready. Okay. So for you, what are the challenges when you're writing dark and still telling a romantic story? What are some of the challenges for you as a writer?
So honestly, one of the challenges, this may sound funny, but is to not get soft too soon. Right. Because I already know that he's going to fall in love. Right. And so sometimes I start showing it like from right in the beginning. I'm like, no. And like, he needs to still be a dick for, quite a while. But like, I'm excited for them to get together. So like, so sometimes I have to pull back, like I'll write a scene and I'm like, no, pull it back. Like he needs to be.
So it's funny because Heather and I did a quick shot on The Gatekeeper, which is the final book in the Chicago Bratva series. And he kind of actually does that. Like he gets all soft and nice for her. And then he has to pull back and remember, wait, she's not, I'm holding her captive. Yeah. She's trouble. She's lying. And like, so you actually wrote the back and forth.
Yeah. And I did have to like, I think that one I had to do surgery on it where like I had him too nice too early. And then I had to like, I think I had to swap some scenes. Like there was that one required surgery. Like that was and it was because of that. Like I had them too together too early.
Yeah. They were fun characters though. So Amber would like to know, do you prefer writing the mafia? Or do you like your other characters, soldiers, shifters, cowboys, aliens? Do you have a favorite? I venture to guess that aliens and like shifters, you're making your own lore, so there's a lot less rules.
Right. I mean, shifters are super fun. I think shifters are definitely as fun as mafia because they're just as alpha. And like you say, there's the whole lore and she doesn't know it. Kind of similar. She's the outsider, right? And then she's kind of stunned by this world she's fallen into. I guess that's the same with the aliens as well. So they all kind of work. Like people say like, oh, I cross genres, but in a way they're kind of, yes, I do, but they all have the same feel, right? It's still like this an alpha male with the, with an abduction or a shock or a bully or, something like that.
Right. I think it's interesting because if you look at it, if you think about it, like mafia and soldiers, there's a hierarchy, there's rules and positions and orders to follow. So those aren't going to be, they're different, but they're not quite. Soldiers can be a little bit of anti-heroes too.
Yes.
And then shifters and cowboys and aliens. I think cowboys would probably be the most outlier.
Yeah. And no, with Vanessa, those were cowboy shifters. So that was, we saw the shifter part. The mountain men we did though, they were maybe the most outliers because they were just ordinary humans, but they were Navy SEALs. So they were still like badass humans.
Yeah.
But also like Navy SEALs are a little nicer than like mafia. So yeah, those are like the books, like I just did a signing here in Tucson. And I read from that because I feel like those are the most like entry level, like anyone might like those versus like you have to be into abduction if you read the rest of mine.
Kidnapping is a love language for some of us, but not all of us. Okay, so Armando and Hannah, inspiration. Where kind of this, because he's gone to prison. He took one for the team and did his 5 years in prison after a deal that people got caught, and he took the fall. So inspiration for these kinds of characters. And Hannah's, she's light, but her life hasn't been easy.
Right. So just the interracial thing was a reader wrote to me and said, hey, I'm Black, my husband's Italian. I would love it if you would write, like, why don't you have a a black heroine in your mafia. And so I wrote this for her. That was sort of I was like, oh, well, why don't I? That's a great idea. So that was kind of part of why they are who they are. And then I have a friend who worked in a flower shop, and it was her suggestion. She's like, what if, she witnessed, like someone in a flower shop witnessed something. And so I was like, that is perfect. So that's how that ended up being part of the story. And then I don't know why Mondo ended up being in prison. And I had another author read it and say, like, I really don't think you should do this. Like she felt like he should be more like mafia kingpin, not like someone who's kind of suffering. She actually called him beta, which hurt my feelings. I don't think he's beta, but
So I see where she sees that, because it did take me a minute to become attached to him.
Yeah.
Because he took the fall. He was willing to be the sacrificial lamb. And in mafia, that's not a typical mafia hero. Usually they're the kingpins, the strong, dominant. It's the soldiers that get taken away. But I mean, honestly, though, I think we needed that for the full scope of who he is as a character, because he has this loyalty to the mafia, but then he still has loyalty to his mom and his brothers and respect to like the church and stuff like that. And I think that just complicates him and makes us, and I think again, that's where that film noir feel comes in, because he's grasping with all these emotions and different roles and,
Yeah, he's pretty lost. He's very like sort of disaffected. Like he doesn't know, like he's in this situation and he doesn't feel anything anymore because he shut it all down. And he's like, until he meets Hannah, like he doesn't know how to wake himself up.
Yeah. Which I really like. And again, the spice was so good. It was so good. But there's story there too. And this like journey, and you have a little bit of the suspense with the cliffhanger and all that stuff. So, people. You like it when your characters meet in dangerous and unusual ways.
I do.
Is it a challenge to think of new and dangerous ways for your couples to meet?
Yes. I mean, and I always think, Vanessa, I don't know if Vanessa Vale talked about this. She calls it the ball rolling scene, because at the Indiana Jones, where like the opening scene and he's like, that ball is rolling and he's running from it. But so like, I always am looking for that, in romance, we call it the meet cute, but in dark romance, it's more like the dangerous scene, right?
Right.
So yeah, trying to find the one that will somehow initiate their whatever glues them together is sort of the goal, right?
That's so funny. The ball rolling scene. I kind of like that.
Scene, right? And then so then she might say, like, is that enough of a ball rolling scene? Like when she's looking at it, she'll say, I don't know if that's, because you don't want to have them just like drinking tea together at the beginning, right? It's got to be like, go.
So in this book and in many of your other books, there is the theme of captive and lover. And there's a very clear line that has to change when they go from being captive to being lover, so that it feels genuine and not like Stockholm syndrome.
Right.
Do you already have in mind that line when you're writing your book, or is it just where the characters take you?
It is usually, I'm just following the emotional arc of the character, like as the scenes build. And that's why I say sometimes it's building too fast, and I'm like, okay, pull back. We shouldn't be there at this, this early stage in the book. Like, got to keep them apart somehow, so they have to have more glimmers of what it's going to be, but not like actually go there yet.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
that's fun. Do you have a favorite character? Because so you have Vegas Mafia, and then you have your Chicago Bratva, and then there are the made men that you have that are in New York, New Jersey. And if you guys are needing some daddies, those are like sugar daddies. They're fun. They have all the sex. Although
yes, they do.
I think it's book 1 is Don't Tease Me. That's your only heroine of yours that I've read that I thought, sister might be a little too stupid to live. Like
she was. She was a little.
But it's okay. It was good. as good, but she's the first one that I'm like, friend, come on.
Yes.
You're not just
Yeah,
a
she
pretty
was,
face wearing sexy dresses.
yeah, a little stuck in her life for sure.
Yeah. Which, I don't know. I think it's kind of fun sometimes to come across those characters. Because seriously, how with it would you be if, like, an older mafia man started hitting on you and, you know, kind of courting you? Like, how smart would you
Right.
be? Or would you be like, oh, yeah. And then, like, oh, gun. That's shiny. Okay. I mean, oh, you bought me new shoes? Great.
Right.
I always want to yell at the heroines that go to the warehouses. Like, why did you
Right.
follow that guy and go to the warehouse?
No, no, no.
Good
Right.
things never happen in warehouses.
Never ever.
Like, don't do it, people.
That's
You
true.
know, what do you think is going to happen?
Exactly.
Okay, so someone asked, do you have one-click authors that you like to read?
I so this may seem funny because they're not really in my genre, but
Lots of romance authors don't read what they
yeah,
write.
right. Yeah. So my like one click is always like I love Tessa Bailey, like just absolutely love her books. And then LJ Shen also
Yeah?
just total favorites for me, yeah.
Yeah, so you like Tessa Bailey, like the rom-com, the,
You know,
sassy, grumpy
the,
sunshine.
you know what got me? Yeah, I just love the way she writes, but what got me was like I think it's like her very first book and there's like a spanking and of course I love that. And I'm like this is trad and it's got a spanking and I love it.
Yeah.
So,
It's funny, because I've been reading romance so long, I've seen the evolution, and Trad Pub used to be really spicy.
right.
You
And
know,
then they muted it.
2008, 2009. I mean, even the stuff back in the 80s. Like, I do not think that if Joanna Lindsay was an author of today,
Mm-hmm.
that her books would get picked up. Because and I'm not even talking about, like, the problematic undertones that are in her books, but I'm talking about, like, there's one that's Secret Fire. It's an aphrodisiac. She's kidnapped off the streets of London, held against her will for a Russian prince. And
Love
in
it.
order to get her to consent, because she's a virgin, to consent to having sex with him because he picked her, like they were driving down the street in the carriage. He saw her and says, I want her. His servants kidnap her.
Why have I not read this book? It
Oh,
sounds like
okay.
right up my alley.
Yes, it is kidnapping. It is
And I
dubious
like her.
consent.
Yeah.
He gives his staff gives her an aphrodisiac to make her
Love it.
more, in
Willing.
agreement, willing. And when he realizes it, he's pissed. But then the king
it.
of Russia at the time is coming to England, and so they don't feel like they can release her, and they think that she is just a housemaid. And of course, she's the daughter of, like, a duke or something, right?
Love it.
So they take her and take her back on the boat, and then the carriage ride across Europe or across Russia to his country home to keep her from telling what he did to her. And there's a couple more aphrodisiac scenes, but something like that. I mean, Joanna Lindsay, like, she was one of the queens of the bodice rippers. And, she, up until the day she died, was big stuff. You would not see a book like that in Trad Pub now.
No. Yeah, they're just too careful now. That's true.
So it's really, yeah, Susie's like, I love that book. I love that book too. And that old clinch cover is, they're like together and covered in furs. And anyway, yeah, if consent is not an issue for you, obviously not if you've read your book.
Clearly not.
Secret Fire by Joanna Lindsay.
Secret Fire. I'm going to write it down.
Top.
Amazing.
Oh, I'm getting messages. What's the kidnapping Russian book?
Right? We're all like, let's write it down.
Let's all write it down.
Must read that.
Joanna Lindsay had a lot of those. Like, everyone's like, oh, mafia, and it's these kidnappings and the holding hostage. Like, everyone keeps asking, like, it's so new. It's
right.
Really not.
No, right.
Because Jude Devereaux did it, Joanna Lindsay did it, Julie Garwood did
Mhm.
Some to
Totally.
some different extremes, but it's not that this kind of romance isn't new. It just used to
Right.
have different covers.
Exactly. Totally.
So it is Susie and it's a secret baby. Secret Fire is a secret baby.
Oh, awesome.
So totally worth it. Okay, so let's talk about covers because it's been an interesting conversation. So as a dark romance writer, I feel like you guys can get away with the object covers a little easier than, say, a contemporary romance. Because,
Yes.
man, and I'll say this, but I loved your cover of this Denizens. Like, I love this cover. But if I just see one more cover with flowers on it, I might throw something. Like the book.
Yes.
How hard is it
This
to pick
is
covers for you?
Well, this is my first object cover. I think maybe for Alta too. No, maybe not. Um, and we didn't intend to do that. We originally started with like this, the mafia suit guy, because that's, it very clearly indicates what they're getting, right? Um, plus everyone likes a man in a suit. But my publicist pointed out that these, the object covers are really hot right now, and she wanted us to try this. And we ended up, because we went with, the florist shop is a Garden of Eden. So we went with this snake with the flowers, and it ended up, we just absolutely fell in love with it when our Pop Kitty Designs did it. And when she sent it over, we were just like, this is it. And people were going nuts for it. So
It was so good, and the color pops, which I
yes,
really loved. And I think I asked you before we came on, it is a matte finish.
it is a matte finish. Yes.
So it's not,
And the book, I don't know if you've seen the book too, but it's the same, but with pomegranates instead of flowers.
no, I
So it's
haven't.
again, it's got that like Hades, Persephone, sort of
Love
thin.
that.
Yes.
I love that. I'm probably gonna have to add that one to my shelf. My husband he'll complain later. um, okay, so if you guys have questions, feel free to put them in the chat and we will ask them. I do feel like I missed a question earlier. Okay, so book 1 is out. Is this gonna come out in audio?
Yes. Although we have not contracted our narrator yet, so we'll have to
Okay.
get on that. Yes.
So it's coming. It's coming.
Coming. It'll be delayed. Yeah.
That's and then book 2 comes out June 22nd.
Yes.
And then so are you, because I know Heather will be mad if I don't ask, are you only co-writing for the 2023 year, or are you going to start, because there was a hint and a tease in your newsletter, and again, guys, the newsletter sign up is linked in our notes. Make sure you sign up for the newsletter because Heather says you spilled some really great tea in your newsletter, and then other times you're like, new series coming, and that's all you got.
I am a tease.
Yeah, I think the
Totally.
word was dirty tease there.
Dirty tease. Yes, it's true. Wait, what was the question again?
The question is are we going to get a single written book, or is your whole just 2023 you and Alta in this Mafia series?
Yeah, so May 25th, I'm releasing Step Alpha,
Okay.
which is book 3 in my Wolfridge High book series. So they are like shifter bullies, bully shifter.
Okay.
So they're in high school. And that I released on Vella. It just finished up on Vella, and so then it's coming to KU in May.
Okay.
And then I'm working on book 4 in that series as well. We'll also go Vella and then KU. And then
are you having a lot of success in Vella? Do you like Vella and the way that it works?
good question. So this is my first foray there.
Mm-hmm.
And so I only just found out what I made for my first month. And Alta was asking me too about it. I would say I wasn't like overwhelmed.
Okay. No, I think that's fair.
But I think it's also my first month, so I feel like it could be something that builds. What I said in my newsletter is like I wasn't looking to convert my current fans to Vella. That was definitely not my intention, because people are like, some of the comments are like, I hate Vella, never again. And I was like, okay, please don't be on here then.
Yeah.
You don't need to be. I will release it as an ebook. But I was hoping to get new, just to broaden my fan base by hopefully capturing like younger readers, the readers who like read on apps,
Yeah. Well, and I think Vella, I was just had a conversation because so my day job, I work as a copy editor. And then I also do editing and author consulting and all this kind of stuff. And I was just talking to an author today and I said, when you ask questions about starting new projects, like recovering or doing something on Vella, it's not for your established reader base. It's for to find new readers.
Exactly.
So while I appreciate your input, please stop.
Right. That's exactly right. So and the same thing with going back into KU. It was, TikTok has changed the landscape somewhat
Sure.
of romance books. And a lot of those book talkers are on KU. And so that was part of why Alta and I decided to go KU with this.
I will say, as a reader, and I've shared my journey on the podcast, I went for 7 years. I couldn't afford to buy a book. I have a child that had a very big medical issue. And for a very long time, there was not budget to buy books.
Yeah.
I am a book a day reader.
Yeah.
And so I'm lucky. I have a phenomenal library system and I can read lots of books and it's well funded and they buy books. But now, my situation's changed. If every book I wanted to read was something I had to buy at $4.99, even at the lower, $3.99, I couldn't do it. I couldn't do it. I wouldn't be able to read as much. And
it's a lot of money. Yeah.
I will tell you, we did our Mafia episode and Heather and I, we probably found, what would you say, Heather, 15 to 20 new authors?
Yes.
And
sorry, my internet was out. There's storms
That's
here.
okay. For, 15 to 20 new authors, I wouldn't have been able to take that chance if I had to, I borrowed each book from Kindle Unlimited, but if I had to buy each of those at, even at $2.99 a piece, I wouldn't have been able to do that.
Right. Totally.
So it does. And I think, I know there's the love-hate with Amazon and all that kind of stuff. KU is definitely great for the reader.
Yes. And that makes sense. And that's kind of the way things have gone. It's like with your music, you don't really buy albums anymore. You just stream, you have a subscription to Apple Music it's kind of just the way things have gone, like these subscription services, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Gretchen asked, where do you recommend readers start? I want to know if we recommend the same one. If they're new to you, where would you have them start?
Well, Gretchen, you could definitely start Den of Sins and you'd be just fine.
Cool. I might say The Director, which is book 1 of the Chicago Bratva series.
Yeah, and I don't know if it was free for a very long time. I think
it is still free. Yep.
Okay, so that's a perma free. I agree. I really like that Chicago series.
Cool.
A lot.
Yay.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure Heather, anytime anyone's like, I'm looking for a mafia romance, and she's like, The Director, Renee Rose.
Awesome.
Because we have a Discord that anybody is welcome to join. Some of them are locked channels for our Patreon, but most of them are open for everybody. And you join it over there, and we have book discussions, but we also sling book recs, some people give out candy on Halloween. We're like, oh, here's a book for you and a book for you.
I love that.
And there's a prequel to The Director, and that's in an anthology, right?
Right. So it's available in KU. It is in Valentine Roulette. There's 5 of them. So let me just make sure I get it right. Valentine Roulette
that Golden Angel told us about, and I was like, oh, and I saw your name, and I'm like, I think that's it.
Yeah, the Blacklight series, and then the Valentine Roulette. It's like book 4 of the Valentine Roulettes, which is called. Why am I spacing it?
I think if you just search it out, the Blacklight Valentine Roulette, it's right there.
Yeah.
Yes, I didn't even know that it was a prequel until Golden Angel had said that, and I was like, ooh, very spicy.
Yes. And then there's a prequel to The Soldier, which is in the book 5 Valentine Roulette. So there's 2.
I did not know that either.
2 little bonus stories. Yeah.
We just found those black lights, and Heather and I were we're consuming them
Nice.
That is a fun series too. And so was that something a new project? You'd never done that either?
I actually did 5 of those. I have one in every Valentine Roulette until I think the very I think the upcoming one I'm not in, but yeah, I did the first 5. So it's fun because I like doing anthologies because you get to maybe meet new readers and I like to do it like tied to a series because then hopefully they want to go find out like what happens with this pregnancy that happened,
I that that is how I started finding some of my favorite authors was through anthologies. So if people are always like, I don't know where to start, I'm like, find an anthology. If you like mafia, try and find a mafia anthology. Or
Yes.
are you going to be at any signings besides the Dirty Daddies? Are you going to be at any other signings this year?
This year I am. So I'm going to be at London Rare, and then I'll be at Florence Rare, and then I feel like I'm forgetting one. Oh, I did sign up for the next Readers Take Denver.
There are so many great authors at that Readers Take Denver next year because
No kidding.
we got to meet Jill Ramsauer on a happy hour, and she's like, I'll be there next year. And I'm like, I don't want to go to Denver in March.
Right? It was cold. It was cold. Yes.
Okay. And I was gonna ask something. I just lost it. Somebody said, oh, Amber says, I find that I buy from my favorite authors versus borrowing, even though I have KU. I often borrow in KU and then I end up buying the paperback, as you can see.
Awesome. Thank you.
And I'm going to just plug your newsletter again, because I think right before the last book in the Chicago Bratva series came out, you were like, if you order a signed paperback from me, then I will send you bookmarks or whatever. And I was like, immediately buy.
Yay. Yeah. So I have a shop now where you can get signed books, and it's at reneeroseromance.com. And I have bookmarks, and I've got stickers, and what else? Keychains.
Very nice.
I love all that stuff. I'm a fool for swag. Give me the stickers. I put them everywhere. And then authors that don't have swag, like this is the Arizona Vengeance sticker from Sawyer Bennett. She doesn't have a swag shop and she doesn't do swag. And I was like, can you send me your art and I'll make stickers?
Cool.
She's like, okay, weirdo. And I did, and I sent them to all our Patreon people so that they all had stickers. Because
that's awesome.
I'm a fool like that.
Do you think that you would ever go to like the Windy City one in Chicago, since you love Chicago so much?
I should, right?
You should.
That would be fun. Yeah, maybe so.
And Heather, then everyone can go on like a mafia tour. They have like
we could have like
I'm not joking.
Totally, we could have like a prohibition night, like with or something, like a 20s,
do a speakeasy
gangster. Yeah, speakeasy. That's what I'm trying to say. A speakeasy or something. That'd be so fun.
They have them. So they have like a mob bus tour or whatever of all the like haunts of the old mafia. I'm not. Yeah,
super
Chicago
fun.
is like the most fun city. So
fun.
I'm just gonna put that little plug in there.
You know what? Even if you just planned a readers weekend in Chicago and did that, I'm fairly certain people would buy tickets and join you.
I love it.
And Chicago's only a 4-hour drive for me, so
yeah.
I happily will take that drive.
Right, and it's probably a direct flight for most people.
Well, yeah, because that big
big hub.
Yeah.
Eat, Read, Mafia, and Be Merry. That's from Gloria. Gloria, I'm not kidding. I don't know. So do you feel like as writing Mafia, you have freedom to do things that you couldn't do just in regular contemporary, like a cowboy?
That's what I like about it, is like they're, they don't have to follow the rules. Yeah. So they have this whole world where they can just, do what they want to do. And that, that's very alluring for me. Like it's it's like you get to give him more power than an ordinary man,
Yeah. Susie says she would go to Chicago. So I'm fairly certain Demi said yes. Susie said yes. Me and Heather. So, you've already sold 5 tickets.
Well, there we go. Sounds fun.
Maybe we can find some hot mafia men that,
Do we carry a sign, Heather? How would that go?
I don't know, but
listen, if you could get Wander there, I'm pretty sure we could sell 50,000 tickets. He's like the dream mafia dom. His look and stuff. I'm just saying.
Right. Yeah.
He posted a picture today with a dog, and I was like, "Oh."
Did you call him Daddy?
Fluffy dog. Okay, so what's on 20? Do you like know what you're writing in 2024? Because that's like right around the corner.
It is. Let's see. Okay,
It's
so
right around the corner. Well, we only got to one book. She's got another book releasing May 25th that's part of her Bully High School Shifter
Yeah.
series. So what else will we see in 2023?
okay, so whatever, I don't know what it is, but whatever Natasha and I end up writing,
Okay.
which we're barely getting started. So that's why I say I'm like, I have no idea what it is, but it's gonna be great. And then Lee and I have an entire new spin-off series, actually 2 new spin-off series. So one of them's top secret and I can't mention. The other one I think is kind of obvious. We're gonna do those the bad bears. If you follow the Bad Boy Alphas,
Oh,
we
wait,
got Bad Bear Mountain.
I read the bear
Teddy.
shifter one that his name is Teddy.
Isn't he cute?
Oh my
That
God.
is Alpha's Rescue. Yes.
I
Yes.
loved that. I'm
So
like,
it's all of his brothers. They need we have to do all of them, right? Because he's got 7 brothers.
yes.
So yeah. So that'll be
Ooh.
coming probably fall,
Okay.
I
Okay.
think. Start this summer.
Are they all gonna
And
have bear names like Teddy? Like,
they're already named
Oh.
because there's the triplets, the Terrible
oh, that's
Threes,
true. Yeah.
and then they've already got their names.
I just
Darius,
need
the
one
brother,
Pooh
and-
Bear reference. Just one Pooh Bear reference. That's all
Ooh,
I need.
like it. I like what she's thinking. Yes.
Like the honey pot or something.
So are like the triplets getting one book, or do they each
Good
get
question. Good question.
Mhm.
I think they will each get one, and we're gonna have them because already. So they were like homeschooled, so they already act really young, but they are about to go through like puberty and become like men. So they'll be men by the time they get
That's
their
good.
books. Yes,
Okay.
because right now they're a little goofy. They're a comic relief right now. But
Right.
yeah.
Oh my
All
gosh.
right.
Okay, so you and Lee and more bear shifters.
Yep. And there's another Zandian book, Rescued by the Zandian.
Okay.
That will probably be after Step Alpha or after Rooted in Sin. Well, somewhere between Rooted in Sin and Step Alpha. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. So you're busy, is what you're telling us.
Yes.
I love
All
it.
right.
I love it.
Yes.
June 22nd. So that is when we will get the second half of this book.
Yes.
And that is Rooted in Sin, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Pomegranate
And
on the
then-
cover.
Next year, maybe Marco or Leo then?
Yeah. We haven't talked about when we'll start writing those, but yes.
Okay.
We have to start. We haven't
I just
plotted
want to
that either.
ensure that we keep that in the forefront of your brain that we're gonna need them.
Gonna need them for sure. Yes.
Well, and also if you maybe want to introduce some characters in those, I think you've got a long run here. We could stay in Chicago.
We totally could. I mean, that's the great thing about Mafias. There's lots of them, you can just keep going.
Yeah.
And you could
Even-
off the dot. How you wrote that. Okay, so there are so many ways you could go in book 2, and I think that's the best part of this book because I'm like, oh, I think it's this guy who's after him. No, it's probably this guy. Nope. It's like you don't know which way to turn, and it's great.
Awesome.
Renee is like,
I wanna
yes.
know
And
what's
I'm
my
not giving
idea.
you any hints.
No,
Like, yep.
I'm glad you're not because I want to know. Like, I'm so excited to find out which one is right.
Yay.
So fun. Does anyone have any other questions in the chat? Let us know. I just wanted to let you know that if you are enjoying this evening, you can support Bookcase and Coffee and Buzzing About Romance on Patreon. Over there, every time we get new supporters, that helps us continue to do events like this. Next Tuesday, I'm live on Instagram with author Jenna Hartley celebrating her latest release. And then I am back here next Thursday night with author Melanie Harlow and celebrating her latest release. So make sure you like and subscribe to the YouTube channel because I have a lineup in May. Like there's so many. We've got Lucy Smoke joining us and Victoria Eden. Is that the name? Heather? Victoria
Yes.
Eden? I keep getting it wrong. So,
Veronica Eden.
because, sometimes names are hard. Anyway, Renee, thank you so much for joining us. I'm
you.
sorry Alta
Thank
missed us.
you.
But maybe you guys will come back when the second half of the duet comes out.
We would absolutely love that.
We'd
Yes.
love
Thank
to have
you.
you. Thank you everyone for joining us.
Thank
And
you.
until next time, happy reading, everybody. Bye.
Bye.